Have you ever been in a situation where there's someone that you've absolutely been in love with, or maybe just been in like with, and you really wanted it to work out? I mean, you connected at an emotional level, you connected at a sexual level, and an intellectual level, yet no matter what you did, it never actually worked out. In this video, we're going to be discussing the idea of the white whale, hence why we're in sunny Melbourne. It's not so sunny. And, well, really, we're going to discuss this idea of the white whale, and just so we can learn a bit more about it, how to conquer it next time, and also in what situations did you never actually have him in the first place. Recently I had the pleasure of talking to someone and we were discussing the idea of the white whale, so I really thought it would be worth sharing with you because we've all been in this situation. I've even been in this situation where there's been someone that you've absolutely just almost been head over heels in love with. Like, you think they're just the perfect person, and yet the relationship doesn't work out to how you want it to be. So the white whale, I like the idea of the white whale because it's kind of like Moby Dick, you know, you kind of get obsessed about it. Also, you know, Moby Dick. But really, like, have you ever been in that situation where you're feeling that, like, you have to keep putting effort? Because if you don't put in that effort, what's going to happen is that person's just going to fade away. And more often than not, that effort that you put in ends up making them fade away. So I want to now disclose with you, like, the 3 elements that actually make a really solid connection. Just not like, you know, because you might meet someone in a bar, or you might meet someone in a club, or you might meet someone maybe in a cafe, or maybe on Tinder, and it seems really good at the start, but then maybe one of these elements is missing. And so maybe you've noticed it, right? Maybe you've noticed that one of these elements are missing and you're like, oh, you know, we just didn't really have that emotional connection. And so it just kind of faded away. But if you ever really want it to last a bit longer, you have to look at these 3 elements and kind of realize, like, whoa, maybe my relationship, you know, has only one of these, and maybe it only has 2 of them, and so maybe there'll be a situation where you won't be able to connect on that 3rd level, and so the relationship just kind of is always going to be limited at that space. So the idea that I want to talk about is just those 3 elements. So the idea that I want to share with you today are the 3 elements of a really solid relationship. So the first element is an emotional connection. The second element is an intellectual connection. And the 3rd element is a sexual connection. Have you ever been in a situation where you've only had 2 of those elements? Maybe you've found someone and you're like, wow, really, like, I'm attracted to their physicality. Like, they're just the most attractive person in the world. And emotionally, we just get each other, but yet intellectually, we're really not that stimulated. Now, this is the dangerous part because, right, let's break it down a bit further, right? Before I tell you why it's dangerous. So if you only have an emotional connection, that's a friend. If you only have an intellectual connection, maybe that's a colleague, or maybe that's a mentor, or maybe that's someone that you potentially can work with, like someone to network with. If you only have a sexual connection, you're probably only just going to be having like 1 or 2 or 3 night stands with that person, like something that's no more than what you can actually handle, right? But the thing is, if we have only 2 out of 3 of those connections, what tends to happen is we have this white whale syndrome where we're so excited that we've actually found someone who has more than 1 element to them, and yet they're not quite there. So we really try so hard to make that happen. So what happens is they try and actually fulfill that 3rd role by overcompensating. Maybe they're trying to, you know, do a little bit more adventure, or maybe they're trying to, like, share some more emotions with them, and yet that emotion isn't actually happening. And what tends to happen in relationships, or just in dating in general, I want to introduce the concept of accelerators and brakes. So an accelerator is just something that really gets someone turned on or aroused or really excited, maybe in an emotional way, maybe in an intellectual way, or maybe in a sexual way. A brake is something that stops them, right? So what tends to happen is that someone who's actually interested in you and a person, they will actually, more of their brakes will be seen as accelerators. Like, that's the situation. You've probably been in a situation where some guy touches you and you're like, why the fuck are you touching me? But you've probably also been in a situation where a guy you really like touches you and you really like that feeling of him touching you. Maybe it's just on the shoulder or something like that. So that's the idea of accelerators and brakes, that we have these things that excite us and also, well, really don't excite us. And if you're attracted to someone, those brakes turn to accelerators. Now, what we do here is we really overcompensate. We try and make this white whale someone who actually that will fulfill all of our needs, our emotional, our intellectual, and our sexual needs. And yet really, it's not gonna work out. And What you can do is you can try and see that person in another element. So you can try and maybe, if it's just purely sexual, try and introduce a little bit more of emotional connection. But if that doesn't work, you'll actually find that the more you try, the more you're actually putting on the brakes. And that's not to say that there's something wrong with you. That is just to say that that person doesn't have those elements going on, and maybe they don't feel the same way. Maybe with them it was only one of those three. And it's really good to have a look at this situation and just to kind of realize that you need these elements, to satisfy yourself. And maybe you've been in a situation where you've actually tried to really crazily overcompensate. So one piece of advice that I can give you is that if you know someone, or if you're currently chasing a white whale, you can try and see them in another element, but just know that if it doesn't work out, it's not you. It's just that their accelerators became brakes because they weren't as attracted to you as you were attracted to them. And in a way, that's a blessing, because then that means, well, really, you didn't have those connections in the first place, and we were just trying to overcompensate because we think we found the Holy Grail. We think we found someone who's going to be fulfilling all our needs, when really, they're not actually going to do that. And so if you try your best and you try your best and you try your best and it still doesn't work out, the best thing you can do is just to take stock. Write out all the things that work. Have a debrief with yourself. Write out all the things that work. Write out all the things that don't work. And just to kind of recognize that maybe he was just a white whale. Maybe he wasn't the right guy for you. And that way he's just a stepping stone for you to find that next really amazing guy. So thank you so much for watching this video. If you did like this video, make sure to leave a like, because that way I know that if you like this video, then I like making this video for you, because that way you like it. And if you want an epic life with legendary love, make sure to be a crew member by subscribing, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. And also let me know about any white whales that you've had and any lessons you've learned from it, because holy hell, there are some good lessons. All right, mwah and mwah. See ya. Cut.